I think it's live, if you want to check.
Yep.
Is it?
Yep. It's live.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, we'll just wait for some people to roll in and go from there.
Yeah, there's a little bit of bad.
A little bit of what?
Yeah, there's a little bit of a delay.
Oh yeah. I think that's just naturally how Twitch is. Like 10 seconds or something along those lines. I think part of it has to do with like content moderation and filtering before it's actually broadcasted. Also, anyone watching, I'm beating. I hope you don't. Yeah, we'll get started in a little bit. It'll be a pretty relaxed stream. Just gonna run through and show off some of the MetaFab stuff and answer questions and hang out with everyone. Also, Eric is here in the background. You'll be able to hear him talk through my audio if he does. On Discord with him right now.
GM, how's it going? I'm spinning up the Twitter Spaces, and we're gonna see if how this works.
Yeah, no worries. This will also be available for anyone to watch later. If you don't stick around for the whole thing, but we'll showcase some cool stuff. You know, for those interested in MetaFab in general, and also the ties to NFT world, you'll be able to see firsthand a demonstration of why this is what we think is the best way to build frictionless Web3 games versus what everyone else is doing. And yeah, from there you can form your own opinion. But let me just check the Twitter. Let's see if anyone else. I'm sure
on MetaFab Live.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure people will pop in. So, and the other thing is like the bigger thing is I was just gonna record this and share it like on YouTube or something later. But I figured for those of you that wanted to watch, it'd be fun to interact as we're going through all this. So. Oh, I need to create while we're waiting, a like test email account on Gmail so I can run all of it through the MetaFab. Oh, the music just died. Oh, there we go. I have triple monitors going on. I have some stuff off screen that I'm just setting up for when we start this in like a minute or two. So you see nothing going on but me looking away and typing, that's why. How many people are in here? 15. All right. Yeah, we'll go ahead and get started in at 105, so in 2 more minutes. Again, I'm just setting stuff up off screen while we're waiting. All right. Yeah, we can go ahead and get started. So, excuse me. I'm just gonna go through and, as a developer, basically demo a bunch of the MetaFab systems. We'll do things like setting up player accounts, using some of the off-the-shelf features that we have, making game currencies, loot boxes, a bunch of fun stuff. All of this ties back into anyone on the NFT World side too. If you're coming and have knowledge from the NFT World side, as a world owner, these are the same types of systems you'll use to launch items for your game, or if you want to launch loot boxes for your world, things like that. You don't need to know development side of things for when that time comes. There's a lot of just point and click tools that we'll be launching, but right now they're mainly developer APIs, and I'll run through them and try and be as layman as I can when I explain things, so that even if you don't understand, you know, what's going on in the code, you can kind of grasp relative to the blockchain what stuff's doing. So yeah, I'll just go ahead and create an account and get started. I set up just like a mock email so that I can get a new set of developer credentials. So we'll just go ahead and sign up for MetaFab. We have to verify our email, so I'll do that off screen right now. All right, cool. Got the verification email. Cool. That is verified. I have my developer window over here. There's nothing really sensitive. Like, these are all just test account credentials, so you know, if anyone wants to take them, whatever. But for the sake of the demo, we're just gonna leave everything out in the open. Go ahead and copy over my test credentials so I can use them kind of as we go. And this workspace here is just kind of going to be a little scratch pad for different systems as we work with them and build them. So, okay, so first thing, when we create a MetaFab account, the way that the systems work is that you have two different wallets attached to your account. So you have wallet and funding wallet. The wallet is the wallet that's used for things like deploying your contracts when you interact with the different APIs, and doing direct contract interactions as the deployer wallet. So that may be things like setting administrative type values on smart contracts or things like that. Maybe you want to grant roles for other contracts to be able to mint your items from different collection contracts, things like that. And then the funding wallet is entirely for the Gasless system. So with MetaFab, when you create a game using the service, all of the transactions that go through it on the player side are 100% Gasless. And what that means is that your players, when they create an account, they don't have to deal with transactions, they don't have to sign transactions, they don't have to handle or even go through any of the user experience friction that traditional crypto has for most Web3 games. This is the same type of thing. If you played NFT World, you're familiar with this. But we also take that a step further, and I'll explain the details on that as well. But for those who have player accounts and they connect external wallets, they don't just create the player account and use, you know, a custodial wallet that is automatically created when a player account's created. Those external wallets also support gasless transactions, and transacting without having to bounce out to MetaMask or do any signing or signatures. So this allows you for both external and custodial wallets for your players to make systems in a game where it's like, let's say you walk up to a door and you need a key as an NFT in order to open the door. And in order to open that door, you may have to submit a transaction that burns that NFT. Well, in most Web3 games, what would happen is you'd bounce out to MetaMask, have to sign something with your wallet if it's an external wallet, etc. But with the MetaFab systems, everything is handled underneath, kind of like behind the scenes, and you don't have to push your players through any of that friction for their user experience. It's all secure, no private keys are shared. But basically to your players, it's no different than I interact with the door. I know I have to burn a specific item. I just enter in my account password in the game client or something similar along those lines for user experience. And item just burns out of my wallet and the door opens. So it doesn't remove you from the player experience at all. And that's true for pretty much every system you can make. But yeah, don't want to get too sidetracked. We're going to keep going through this. The first thing I need to do to start deploying some contracts, I'm going to launch some game currencies, some items, shops, loot boxes, etc., is we have to send some token to our wallet address that's used for deploying contracts. In this case, I'm just going to deploy everything on Matic, but MetaFab supports, fully supports for all our system, Ethereum mainnet, Goerli testnet for Ethereum mainnet, Polygon testnet, and also Arbitrum and Arbitrum testnet. You could use any of those, but you know, I typically use Polygon for demo purposes. So off screen, I'm just gonna log into one of my MetaMask instances that has some Matic token on it and transfer it over to this wallet address. So I'll send like, I don't know, four Matic is way more than we'll need, but I'll just send it over since it's so cheap. The other thing here, just a little bit of housekeeping, is we are going to demonstrate gasless transactions, and for covering the gas fees of those gasless transactions, the funding wallet does need to have a token balance in it. Since everything we're going to deploy is going to be on the Polygon blockchain using the Matic token, it also means that those contract interactions will use Matic as well. So we'll just send some Matic token to this this address off screen. I'll go and do that now.
Mark, when you get a minute,
Yeah, what's
the
up?
background music is a little loud.
Oh, it is? Yeah, sure. I'll turn it down.
Also, I don't know if it matters, but the stream title is vid and audio.
Oh, I didn't change that. I should change that now. Yeah. Will it update without me Did it change?
Yeah, it's.
It'd be MetaFab demo.
Yep.
Okay, cool. And I turned the music volume down a little bit, but yeah, it should be good. Yeah, let me transfer that token. We'll do that now. Again, it's off screen if any of you are just joining in. I have multi-monitors going, but the main monitors for screen share is just showing kind of the playground we have for playing on the MetaFab APIs. Send that over. In the meantime, I think the first batch of tokens sent is we have an API reference on the docs website. So these are all the different API endpoints for different systems MetaFab exposes, and you can interact with them for testing, development, and just really quick ease of use right through your browser. So I just want to check the native token balance of my two wallet IDs here has actually reflected to show that they've received the Matic token, and I can go ahead and start deploying some contracts. So I can just check here. Yeah. So the first one, which was the main wallet, we sent 4 Matic to. We can see it has a balance of 4. And then the second one, I believe I sent 10. I think that transaction went through. It may not have yet, but we can go ahead and check that as well. 15. Okay, yeah, that sounds right. So those are set up. The next thing we maybe want to do before we get into deploying currencies and other systems is we can go ahead and create a test player account. For this, there are API endpoints for creating players for a game. I can just kind of show you how you can do that internally. So you would be using these specific API endpoints if you're building a game and you want to just create your own in-game player registration flow. Same thing with like player login. There's a player authentication endpoint for your game as well. They just provide their username, password, returns their credentials back to your game client, and then you can perform various MetaFab API calls for different systems from there. But yeah, we'll just create a player through the API endpoint here, and then I'll show you this really cool off-the-shelf system that we built that any developers can use and brand. So the one thing we need for creating a player is it's called the publish key for your game. So this is basically a unique key that will identify your game within the. It's how MetaFab identifies your games for different API calls. It's also, in this case, how we know what game to associate this created player with. So I'm just going to, from my developer credentials we got earlier, copy this in, put that there, just make a testing account. Just arcdev testing, go ahead and hit try it. That player created successfully. We can also see too, if you're a developer and you're curious, the different response types for endpoints. You can click them and see what types of fields you can expect. But we'll go ahead and just copy in our this return player object that was created now, and I'll just paste this into my little scratch board so we can use it later. So yeah, that's one way to create players. In this case, you'd have your login or your username password form in your game, and when they create an account, they create an account. There'll be support for things like CAPTCHA and email verification in the future if you decide you want to implement those things as a game. But obviously, with Web3, some games may not want to for identification and other reasons. But yeah, we'll go to the cooler thing here. So assuming you just want to get your game up and going really quick, you don't want to build your own login registration flow, and you don't want to have to create your own wallet connection systems, all these different things. We have we call it the connect page or auth page. Name is still being decided. We just finished it today. But we can go to connect.trymetafab.com. And this is sort of like it's kind of like a widget that lets you create your own branded auth and login flow. Trying to remember the arguments I need to pass here. This was just made, so okay. So we need to pass our game ID here. This is how this login page will identify which game the login's for. The chain the players who are logging in or registering an account will be interacting with or connecting their wallet to. In this case, that chain is Matic. And to start, that should be all we need. So yeah, we have a first thing here. This is a brandable login and auth page for a game. So you can bounce your players out to this if you don't want to make your own in-game registration login flow. And you can also have it once they log in, redirect back to your website if it's a web-based game, or if you're doing a pop-up model in like a Unity game or something like that, you can extract their authenticated credentials from the page URL once they sign in. This will update to include an access token and player ID once they've signed in. But I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. I want to show you guys how you can fully brand this in like 2 minutes for your game to have your own full auth wallet connection login page. So we'll go over back to our API reference for MetaFab. Under the games related APIs, we have one for update game. This is where we can change a lot of things related to our game. Things like our game's name. By default, a game is just called a default. It just is set to default game name right now. Let's just call it MetaFab demo maybe. We need the game ID that we're updating, so I'll just copy our game ID from our test credentials. We're not changing our password, don't need that. You can set things as well, like RPCs. If you're familiar with RPCs, they're basically the gateway for interacting with the blockchain. So MetaFab has its own default RPCs that can be used, but if you're a game with production or large scale, you'll likely want to set your own RPCs where you can actually visualize your network traffic, any drop transactions, things like that, such as through Alchemy or Infura or any RPC provider you use. They're all fully supported. The next thing we want to set is our, oh, sorry, looking over chat. Okay. Okay. Yeah, so next thing we might want to set is maybe we can change this image here to be branded to our game as well as this background. I've been testing just using a random Web3 game that I came across, which I like, from the Treasure DAO. They have Bridge World, which has some pretty cool artwork and assets and things like that. So we can just go over to the Bridge World website, find some imagery. Like we can maybe use this icon as the icon for our login page, and if we can find a cool background. Yeah, so maybe like this background as our auth background. So what I need to do now is via the API, when you set the icon and background that's used in this auth system, you have to pass them up in a certain format. In the future, there's going to be a MetaFab dashboard where it's just point, click, upload file. But for the sake of this demo, I will have to do some converting of the images to base64 encoding. So that's the icon. Copy that. Paste it in there. We exclude this leading set of information. And then let's get the cover image. And didn't like that. Oh, 1 megabyte per file. Let me just size that down a little bit so that it actually can be uploaded here. I'll do that off screen. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty big. Like 900 pixels. Actually, I think if we save this as a JPEG, it's probably going to be quite a bit smaller. And for these different image assets, you can use JPEGs, GIFs, PNGs, or WebP files. That's saved. Close that. Let's go get the cover image in the JPEG format. Oh, it's still 2 megabytes. Sorry, this is this is all ad hoc and kind of off the top, so none of this is rehearsed. But oh, we'll need to keep this. Yeah, so there'll probably be a few stumblings as we go through just in the demo, but to be expected. It's kind of fun. Yeah, that's good. So this is 800 bits now. Work. Upload, encode, data, copy, image. So let's get rid of these leading tags again. The testing input here isn't really made to, you know, accept such long strings, so it's a little bit laggy, but fine, it'll work. Thank you for follows. Someone said it's better to generate image in Midjourney AI. If I had a ready to go an AI asset generator for this stuff, I would love to use it, but I'm just kind of going off of some off-the-shelf stuff. So I'm just gonna upload these, set them real quick, and then we'll see really quickly how it totally rebrands the auth page. So any game, like we were saying, can go ahead and set their own branded auth page in just a few minutes by setting their own icon image, cover image, and going from there. Yeah, should work. out. One second. Yeah, humongous strings. I'll do this. Like I said, this is all ad hoc. I could but I'm just gonna resubmit it with one image at a time. I'm guessing it's just the A64 strings or multi-file is something I need to address later, which is why I didn't set my secret key. That would make a lot of sense. So yeah, okay. So set the name, and now let's go ahead and set the icon base 64 first. Copy this out. Paste it in here. Second upload. Okay, so that worked this time. I'm pretty sure it was just because I didn't include my secret key, and that mixed with the size of the request. And also, let's start cover image. Might need to refresh. Oh, is something happening with Twitch? Stream is not smooth.
No, it's okay.
Oh, okay.
I think at least on my end it's good.
Let's see. It seems I'm getting it hung up on the cover image. It might still just be too large. I'll go through, and like I said, we just built the system for setting these assets and brandability last night, so there's been a decent amount of testing, but this is something that just might have slipped through. I'll get a smaller yeah, I'll get a smaller A64 string. Oh, I mean, I don't know if it's working for some people, not for others. Then I assume it's not me for the stream quality, but I am also I think I have like only 20 megabit up here or something like that, so it may not be as as fast of a network as I should have. Let me just do this again. It was smaller.
20 megabit.
20 megabit? Yeah, it's my internet
That's
here.
Nothing.
I know it's bad.
That is nothing.
Yeah, I need to move, but I like living in the forest, so it's all right. We'll use the smaller base 64 image here. Same idea. In the meantime, while that is trying to run again, let me just check. Oh, there we go. So I'll just need to fix the API later. I think it's anything larger than a megabyte of request payload. It's I think there may be an application limit that we have set that I just didn't update. But yeah, so anyways, we've set the image, set the different things. If I refresh this now, you're gonna see, or should see, a fully branded, nice looking auth page. Yeah, so that's MetaFab. Forgot an A. But yeah, so that's an example of how you can create your own player auth systems. We can go a step further and like change the primary color of things too. So let me just get rid of the. You don't need to re-upload this. We can set a primary hex color. I don't know what we should set. Like, what is gold? That could be cool. Gold hex color. Yeah, we'll just use. Or maybe like a dark gold. That's kind of like a blue orange or something. This looks EEBC1. That looks good. EBC. So yeah. Also, the name of the game sets here, the icon sets and the title and everything like that. You can even use CNAME mapping. Oh yeah, and then colors update. You can even use CNAME mapping, so it's not connect.trymetafab.com for your game. It could just be like, in this case, we're using Bridge World as an example. It could be like connect.bridgeworld or login.bridgeworld. But yeah, just through this, I can go ahead and create a player account as if I were a player for this game. So call it test player. So that registers. This flow is not set up with a redirect URI. So there's two ways you can handle this. One is, say you're building in Unity and you do an in-game pop-up that is this browser auth instead of players going through a native in-game set of forms for your auth flow. Once they get to the login point, you'll see on the developer side, you would listen for a URL change. You would see that this fragment gets appended to the URL. You would close the window, and then the player's access token, as well as the player's ID in this second parameter, are set in the URL. And then from there, you have your player credentials. You can get the full player details via an API endpoint, things like that. I can demo this with redirection real quick, but to do that, we just need to set one more thing. So redirect flows similar to like if you've ever used OAuth or something along those lines, you'll usually sign in or authorize something. In this case, it's sign in, register, and then it redirects you. Yeah, we'll just use the Bridge World example. So I'm gonna set my game up to allow redirection to any URL that is starting with the this, so bridgeworld.treasure.lol. And that will allow my implementation here for the login auth flow to then redirect my players to that website with their credentials in the URL. The reason you have to set this is because otherwise, if I were a bad actor, I could just grab your game ID and set any redirect URL. So I could then send your players to my website and then grab their access token and player ID. There's not a lot of malicious stuff you can do with just an access token. You also need a password for players to do transactions and things like that. But it's still a security consideration, and that's, again, why you need to set allowed redirect URIs. So if I do a redirect without, if I do a redirect URI that wasn't allowed, like let's do nftworlds.com or something. Let's say I'm trying to be malicious. The application here for the auth login, it won't work, and it'll tell you why. And it'll also say what the allowed base URLs are. So we can, in this case, we'll just redirect out to the main game stream of Bridge World, which seems to be the map. And because we allowed any URIs that begin with this, because it's just the same but postfixed with /map, it also works. I could do like /game / whatever from there. You can get creative with whatever you need as a developer for setting that up. But yeah, we'll create another account. And then this time it'll bounce us out to Bridge World with our credentials set in the my Google Chrome's being annoying. With our credentials set in the URL. And from here, like the game application, if it's a web-based game, can grab the access token credentials, all the player-related stuff, and do what they need to do. So yeah, that's one of the cool systems we have. The other thing here, which we'll demo, is the ability to connect external wallets. But to really show how powerful that is, we're gonna need to create some game assets and currencies first. So we'll go ahead and do that next. So MetaFab has a bunch of different systems for game currencies. You can create multiple game currencies for your game. They're baseline ERC20 tokens, but the smart contract implementation for these game currencies includes a bunch of things that you probably want for quality of life on the contract level. Excuse me. This is things like being able to do batch transfers in a single transaction, being able to set gasless transfer fees. For example, just like in NFT worlds, when we have players gaslessly transacting using the world token, we had, I think it was like a 1% or one world token fee. So any gasless transaction, we were able to split off from the payment or transfer of that currency, one world token or a percentage of the total value transferred to like our own wallet to basically recoup the costs of paying the underlying gas fees, and then the rest went to the recipient of whatever the transaction was. You can think of that similar to like how a credit card processing fee works, right? Like the network puts the credit card, like processes the payment for a credit card, but in doing so, there's costs associated, and that's what the underlying transaction fee is. Same with gasless transactions. That's the same idea here. I'll stop talking so much. We'll create a currency next. Does anyone have a name in the chat that we should call our currency? Name it anything. Anything at all. Give it a second if anyone wants to. Baguettes. Yes, we can make the baguettes token. What would it be, like bags? Call it the bags token. Bags. Yeah, let's do that. Dingles. Dingles is good. Well, yeah, we'll stick with baguettes because there's bread. Oh, bread for the symbol. Yes. Yeah, I think this is good. So yeah, baguettes is the token's full name. The symbol is bread. You can set a supply cap or exclude it by setting the number 0. So like if you want to launch a token that has unlimited supply cap, so inflationary token, you just set a value of 0. If you want to launch a token that say has 10,000 max supply, you can set it here. For this, I'm just going to do an unlimited supply cap. The chain we're going to deploy to, so we deposited all that Matic token, if you remember, in the beginning. So like I said, we're going to use Matic for our example. Matic is Polygon, but yeah, that's sort of confusing how they name themselves. But Matic chain is Polygon, so we're deploying to the Polygon chain. To deploy this, we will need our secret key and also the password for our game, which I believe was testing, if I remember. And the reason a password is required for anything, either for games or for players that involves transactions, is that behind the scenes MetaFab for any custodial wallets or custodially managed wallets, we don't store them in plain text or in a way that any single party could access the plain text private key or other secure credentials specific to that wallet. What happens is that when you create a game or a player account, a random wallet is generated, and using AES encryption, each individual custodial wallet set of credential keys is encrypted using the underlying player game's password. And the only time these get decrypted, the ciphertexts are stored in our database, but passwords are not. The only time they are decrypted is in memory. They are never persisted in any type of storage. And therefore, to do any types of transactions in the decryption process to put those transactions through, passwords have to be included with network requests such that the API can decode the ciphertext for the wallet and submit them. So we'll go ahead and I think, let me just double check that. We should be able to deploy Baguette as long as the Polygon network is not super congested right now. Okay, that deployed. I see a question in the chat. Let me see. Is MetaFab something that can be applied to an already existing game? For instance, in the future, for lack of a more realistic option, Fortnite wanted to partner with MetaFab. They would just have to go through this process. Yeah, any existing game could add things like digital collectibles or alternative currencies that are based on an ERC20 or something like that using MetaFab. You don't have to build your game from the ground up using MetaFab and only MetaFab. All these systems I'm showing you so far can just be picked and choose. Like, if you want to just use our player account system with wallet connection to both verify wallets and give a quick player registration flow, but you don't want to launch currencies or items or anything like that through MetaFab, you can do that. If you just want to use MetaFab to launch your game currencies, but you don't want to use our player account system, you can do that too. Because at the end of the day, these systems, like this bread currency I just deployed, it is just a smart contract. The same way that any developer building for these games will launch their own smart contracts. The MetaFab systems just remove all the friction from the developer side, so you don't have to write a contract that you have to get audited and make sure it's secure. You don't have to go through and handle deployments or like building extended functionality for things that you might need, like batch transfers or gasless transactions. It's just all handled for you. And we can even check too, like this is the response from us creating the BayGet token, or the BayGet token. I'll just paste it. The JSON, everything responded as a JSON object, but you get a big thing back. Like I said, these are all contracts. So while it's a currency you created named bread and baguettes in the MetaFab system, all these things have an underlying contract object that includes the ABI, if you're familiar with that you need to directly interact with these contracts using things like ethers.js or web3.js or other like frameworks or libraries you use to interact with blockchain. It's all there. Again, everything is on chain. We can even go and check on Polygon scan the address of this contract we deployed, and it's there. And it should also have the token. We'll need to verify it. But yeah, the contract's here. I could go ahead and verify this real quick. Or, well, I don't know. I don't know if that's necessary for the demo, but the contract's here. Are there competitors that have built anything like this? There are, from a full system standpoint, there is no one close to what this is. I think the reason there's not as much hype around MetaFab yet is because we've really just focused on building. If you go to our landing page, trymetafab.com right now, it just says blockchain gaming API. And you don't get a sense of the scale and the amount of pain points to solve for both players and developers unless you as a developer right now take a couple hours and you dig into our guides and our docs and you start reading and understanding like the capability of all these systems. But that's going to change soon. Yeah. Verify it so we can set up a liquidity pool. I can verify it real quick. I will do that. But sorry, to answer the last question, competitors. There's a few. There's some that do custodial wallet solutions, some that do NFT solutions. I know of none that give you things like loot boxes, items, contracts. I know of none that do the same gasless type system. The tech is actually very complex between external wallet management, custodial wallet management, and having it all work through one single set of APIs. Whereas typically as a developer, you have to do a split set of logic for external and connected custodial type wallets and those systems. But we've just rolled it all into one using some pretty innovative solutions. The games, this is like comprehensive all-in-one package. Yes, it is. So for building game economy, auth, anything Web3 specific to kind of like the economics and infrastructure of a game, MetaFab basically does it all. If the games are not interoperable with each other, I haven't touched on this, but the way these systems are set up is you can interoperate game currencies across different games. Players can interoperate currencies at the API level across different games. There's just approval in different type systems, which are more like the advanced level, but we already have support for all of these things. Like, for example, the world token for NFT Worlds. If someone wanted to go launch a game like a combat arena or something like that, but use the world token gaslessly for buying items in their game, for players transacting, trading, spending, all they would need to do is get, which we would share. All they would need to do is know the currency ID in the MetaFab ecosystem that they want to support for those different types of systems on their game. And just through a couple endpoints, you can enable it for your game. Yeah, it's a huge world sync. And this is one of the things why like it's taken us a while to get the new World 2.0 out, is because these underlying systems for interoperation on games, there's been a few iterations, and like the complexity, simplifying down the complexity so it works in a way kind of like I'm talking about across games, it's not easy, but it is solved now. Will there be incentives for using world token? Just buy world NFTs instead of world coin, yeah. Will there be an incentive for using world token as an in-game currency? Yeah, so NFT Worlds, the game engine that we're rebuilding from the ground up, it uses world token exclusively. So all the different worlds that people make in NFT Worlds for like selling in-game items and stuff like that on NFT Worlds specifically as a platform, that's all using world. But one of the nice things with being able to have interoperable currencies is that, and Treasure, the Magic token, identified this as well, and this is kind of where their value prop is when you have a shared currency or a currency that can interoperate across games in a decentralized manner, you sort of inherently create an ecosystem of players that are already semi-onboarded into this pool of Web3 games because they hold Treasure, for example, they hold Magic token already, and bouncing to other games that may or may not get popular or not get popular, they can get their items for those games, maybe sell those items back to Magic token, take that Magic token to another game over here, buy those items, sell them, exchange them for the native token of those games, exchange them back, all those types of things. And those are the same systems that we also provide, but in a way that's gasless, allows interoperability and allows player accounts to interoperate as well. So exciting stuff, but getting a little, trying to remember where we were. We were making currency. Oh, I was gonna verify it on Polygon Scan for you guys. We don't have a contract verification endpoint yet. This is actually the next thing that we're gonna build probably in the next couple days, but when contracts get deployed automatically, they will verify going forward. But for the time being, I just have to go into my terminal off screen and run a verification. It'll take me like... Could MetaFab interact conveniently with your typical 10K? Launch a new one. What do you mean by that? Like, could it tie functionality to like a PFP collection, or? Oh, no need. Oh, sorry. OXPinky. Yeah, I could just use the world currency. It is verified, but I do want to run through this from the standpoint of a fresh game, just so I can show deployments and spin-ups of these things. But I could totally just right now be like, okay, we're not going to use baguettes. I'm going to just grab the world token ID, and we'll go ahead and create like item purchasing and loot box purchasing and all these different things around the world token. But I would like to use our own for the demo. Grab that. MPX hard hat network. I just... Oh, another question. The difference in ERCs used. Yeah, so you can, if you have an existing like 10K PFP setup, you can sync existing contracts in the MetaFab to just work for your players to interact with via one of our contracts endpoints. You just set the address of the contract. If there was a forwarder address used by the contract for the Gasless transaction side, you just include the address so it knows what forwarder to interact with for Gasless transactions. The ABI, just a big JSON string for the contract and also what chain it was on. That will create the contract within your like set of game contracts, and also your players can then interact with that from there. And yeah, you can launch a collection with MetaFab as well. I'll demo that in a little bit. Non-NFT world games include world names. Yeah, they could. We don't have like a on-chain username type system through MetaFab specifically, but you could, again, in the same custom contract setup, the world name service is a set of custom contracts. You could just enable it as a contract that can be interacted with by using the same endpoint to include it underneath the set of contracts your game can use and your players can use through your game. If you're going to build a DEX for your token to world where one pair needs. Yeah, that's true. There will also be one of the systems that will be added soon is swap pools between different MetaFab tokens, and you can spin those up through your game. Other games can spin up currency swaps to other currency swaps at fixed rates, adjustable rates, using automated market maker, order book style things, stuff like that. So there'll be flexibility and interoperable economics in the systems you can build as well. And that should add another level of depth. But yeah, gonna get back to verifying this contract real quick, just so I can share it with you guys in the chat and you can kind of follow along as we go. I'm again doing some stuff off screen. Okay. All right, I should be able to verify this. Let's try. Oh, let me look at my argument. Thank you for the follow, whoever it was. I'm just setting my arguments for the constructor. You need these when you verify a contract. I spelled big S right, I think. Cool. Submitted, waiting for verification. Okay, it verified. So let me share this link in the chat and you guys can see our verified Baguettes contract. Also go to it here. Oops. What did I do? There we go. Yeah, so we got our Baguettes token, we got our bread ticker. We have our verified contract in here. You can see, oh, where's the MetaFab? So these are getting anything that's prefixed with this MetaFab set of comments or just MetaFab related contracts in our systems. Where's our token? Yeah, ERC20 game currencies. So this is based on ERC20, and then it adds a bunch of additional functionality that games typically need, like batch transferring, being able to assign reference IDs to transactions, such as if you need to check like a player spend for a service in game and what service they paid for. Doing things like supporting bridges to multiple networks, so you can bridge between different chains, such as if you want to launch on Polygon or Arbitrum and you want to bridge back to ETH-L1 for liquidity reasons or whatever it may be. You can do all that. Burning, gasless stuff. everything's in here that you would need, that we needed for NFT worlds, and that pretty much any game type interaction is going to need. So yeah, and we have all our contract methods. We'll be able to check balances directly on contract for the rest of the demo, things like that. So continuing on, let's get into gasless transactions via some currency stuff. So we created our currencies. If for whatever reason, like as our game, or if someone wanted to see what currencies are part of our game, we can just use a get currencies endpoint. It'll list them out. You just need the game's published key. And again, published key can be shared. Secret key you do not want to share. And again, it'll just return out all our contracts for currencies. In this case, bread. When demo NFT Worlds 2.0. Yeah, I don't have a demo for the new NFT Worlds right now, but we should have something, I think, in February, March, or even sooner, actually. We might have like a wireframe type demo next month. It's very possible, but we'll see. It really just depends on team's progress. We have a really great set of engineers working on the new game platform for NFT Worlds. Really talented people, and yeah, I think they could have something very basic to start sharing by next month. Should we buy more world? I can't answer that question. That is your choice. Not having to learn Solidity security, huge win. Yeah, so you don't have to learn any Solidity or understand like smart contract specific security as a developer using MetaFab systems. The only things you really need to understand are pretty normal things for developer tools, like don't share your secret keys, which I'm doing for this demo, but obviously you wouldn't. You know, have I don't know. That's probably the biggest thing specific to MetaFab, and there's other considerations as a developer you might want. But okay, I'm gonna keep going. We're gonna mint some currency to our player, and we're gonna do some gasless transactions between players, so that you can see how these systems work. So we have our player ArcDev. Let me just create another. We'll create ArcDev2 using that login auth thing that we configured earlier. So get ArcDev2 up here. I can then get my, so that created the player. I send the authentication credentials specific to access token and ID to the URL fragment arguments and the redirect. But I can also just authenticate as a player here. So I created ArcDev2 for my game. I just need my published key. That's so the API knows what game this user is trying to log into. So ArcDev2, testing. Then I can get my player object this way. Go ahead and copy that out. ArcDev and ArcDev2, we're going to do some gasless transactions between these two. So ArcDev, our first user, is going to send gaslessly some bread token to ArcDev2. So the first thing we need to do is we're going to mint some bread token to ArcDev. You could use this mint system for so many different things. You can do it for rewarding your players for accomplishing tasks in game, doing airdrops to a large set of holders using mint and batch transfer, where you could just mint a bunch of currency to your game's wallet address up here, and then you could just batch transfer all of it out to like thousands of different wallets in one transaction using the APIs. But in this case, we're just going to give it to ArcDev. So we need our currency. Did I save our currency? I don't save it. Oh yeah, I did. We need our currency ID, our Baguette token. We put right here. Give him 1337, 1337 bread, and let's see. So we can set who we want to mint this currency to, the bread token to. So you can either provide just an EVM address, any regular address. If I remember, I think we actually support ENS2, so you can include an ENS address here as well. Or you can include just a wallet ID from the MetaFab ecosystem. So if I go back to my player, ArcDev, I could, for convenience sake, just use this wallet ID. Synonymously, I could use the address for the address field. They're the same exact thing, the same exact outcome. But there will be cases where you may just have a wallet ID and not an address, or just an address and not a wallet ID. So exposing both is important from a developer standpoint. I'll get my game credentials. Include this, and like I said, anything involving a transaction for that wallet encryption security side, passwords always have to be provided. And then we will go ahead and I think that's good. Yeah, we'll go ahead and mint it. Then depending on Polygon network and the network speed, it can take a couple seconds, minute, or not minutes, you know, a few seconds. Reading the chat. Stream is good. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, so that minted our token. So in this, we get a transaction object back. Transaction objects are going to be returned by a lot of different API endpoints in MetaFab, and they're always going to be the same properties. So we invoke the mint function against our contract ID, which is our currency's contract. We can even look up the transaction hash on Polygon and verify that it actually went through. And we can see that 1337 baguette was minted to OXE78, which is, where's ArcDev? Oh, wait, did I mint it to the wrong? I minted to the wrong person. Oh, I minted to ArcDev 2. I copied the wrong, whatever. We'll do ArcDev 2 to ArcDev 1. Yeah, so they've got some baguette token now. We can do things like verifying player balances, just to make sure that, you know, that balance is what we expect it to be. We just need our currency ID again from our baguette token. And the wallet ID we want to check the balance of. So if we check ArcDev2, should see 1337. Yep, and then if we check ArcDev1, which I thought I was minting it to, but I actually copied the wrong ID probably and going back and forth too fast. We should see 0. Yeah, so ArcDev2 has 1337 token. If we want to say in game, like ArcDev2 wanted to send ArcDev some currency, the game developer would just implement the transfer method into whatever their currency transfer UX is in game. Again, this is fully gasless. So ArcDev2, ArcDev1, they have no Matic token in them. So they wouldn't be able to by themselves put transactions through. And we can verify this real quick. So we can check the wallet ID balances of ArcDev 0 on everything, and Matic here to put the gas through. So let's do a transfer, and this will automatically perform a gasless transfer without me as a developer having to specify anything specific. It just works regardless if this was an external wallet or a gasless wallet. So we need to include our currency ID. And then we need to include the address or wallet ID we're transferring to. So that's going to be ArcDev, just ArcDev1, right here. We can transfer, let's transfer 100 for bread token. Reference, we don't need to include it, it's just a random UINT number that can be used for things like service verification, other things, but for this example, it's unnecessary. The thing that's used to determine whom is sending the currency in this case is the access token of the player, as well as the player's password for the sender. In this case, it's ArcDev2, so we need ArcDev2's access token. And then again, like we were talking about using the passwords for decrypting wallets, you need to include it with for requests. Also, I think I lost our music. Just kick that back on real quick. Hopefully that works. There we go. Okay. Yeah, we can go ahead and submit. This should do a gasless transaction, and the balances will reflect once it's through. And we'll see. Yep. All right. So usually gasless transactions are even faster than that. So that was like 5-6 seconds, which is still very fast. But it's still very fast. The reason it took like an extra 3 seconds than what it usually takes on Matic is that we have all these wallet nodes behind the scene that basically sign and submit the gasless transactions, but they have to be funded from the original funding wallet we showed you earlier that we put that 15 Matic in. So there's a 2-step process, just one time, where the first gasless transaction out will be take a small bit of Matic, put it into one of our nodes that's available. The node has to wait until that transaction for receiving Matic confirms, and then it'll submit the transaction such that it has the Matic token in it for gas, and that's a second transaction. So 2 transactions on Matic takes about 6 seconds. That's what the speed was there. But we have our transfer. We transferred totally gaslessly 100 bread to ArcDev. We can check our transaction here. Yeah, so we see 100 baguettes bread went to OX70, which again was ArcDev1, from OXE7, which was ArcDev2. And you'll see that there's this other transfer value for 0 in here. This is the token fee thing I briefly touched on earlier. So if you want like oh, thank you for the follow. Can you make transactions faster? Yes, actually we can. I'll explain that in a second. But again, this 0 is if you set a fee, like a transfer fee on your token, you can set the address that fee goes to for any gasless related transactions that involve transferring token. And that way you can recoup, say, 3% of the total token value transferred. So I would get 3 baguette in this case, and the recipient would have gotten 97 if I had a 3% fee. And that lets you, if there's liquidity pools, you can swap back and recoup costs related to covering your player's gas. What is chat saying? Okay. Can you make the transactions faster? We can actually, we can do some eager transaction confirmations on the API side, where basically when you do these transfers, we can, to some high degree of certainty, preemptively say that this transaction will confirm based on current network conditions, arguments provided, and the static runs against the current state of the chain in the last block. And that can get, with the right system, transaction times for things like Matic or Arbitrum or whatever from a few seconds down to milliseconds, in which case it is fully seamless on the player side. And it's something we're starting to explore as well, so you can expect to see that soon. That should just further improve the value of the systems that we're building here. Yeah, okay, so we just transferred 100 bread gaslessly from one of our players. Both players have no Matic token to pay for gas in their wallets, but with the MetaFab API systems, they're able to transact and use all these different things without having any Matic. So that's awesome. Another thing, let's see. I think one exciting one that is kind of the mind blower for me, and I know we're still on currencies. This is going long, and I apologize. And there's other systems I want to showcase, and people, who are going to stick around to watch the video. That's awesome, and thank you. I'm excited that you're excited. But I want to showcase how we can connect an external wallet to an account, and then without signing anything, let's say that external wallet has 100 bread in it. That external wallet can gaslessly transact and send, say, 50 bread to another wallet without the private key being needed to sign that transaction. and the balance deducting or spending out of the external wallet, just through the player providing their account credentials, their token, and their password. That's a pretty big one. So we'll go ahead and do that. Excuse me. So we showed you this form earlier for login registration. It also doubles as a wallet connection form if you include another argument and the URL here. For example, if I include flow equals connect instead of the default flow, which is auth or login register, I can now log in to connect a wallet to my player account, or I can register and in the same process be prompted to connect a wallet before redirecting back to the game. So we'll use arcdev 1 as our player account to connect a wallet to. We'll connect via MetaMask. Let's create a new account, arcdev test. Yeah, we'll connect arcdev testing OX38. This is where the magic happens. To delegate this magical approval process of how you can send transactions without needing the external wallet to sign or use MetaMask or anything like that, you have to do a one-time signature, which is basically this external wallet proving that it has that it is the wallet that it says it is, and that it's approving the underlying player's custodial wallet to transact on its behalf. I won't dive too deep into those systems. I'm just going to show you that it works. But there's a lot of magic that happens here, and it's exciting. So, okay, we connected our wallet. So we can verify that arcdev now has an external wallet connected by just authenticating login, pulling the player account again. Oops, forgot the game. And we will see that external wallet is set is the player's primary wallet now. Whoa. What am I looking for? I'm looking for the publish key. Yeah. So OX38 is the primary wallet, and then reference to the custodial wallet is always attached to a player account under the custodial wallet. If both wallet and custodial wallet match, it means that the player is still using custodial wallet, but in this case, they don't match, so we're using an external wallet. Just double check that OX38 CD is what the connected wallet begins with. Looks like it. So now we can go ahead and this is a new wallet, so let's mint some currency to it real quick. Oh, sorry, got a Slack message. We'll mint some currency to that external wallet. That external wallet within MetaFab is signed to wallet ID, but it still maps back to the same external wallet address. We'll give it 100. Then currency ID, we need to get currency ID again. Game key. And our password, and that whole wallet decryption process with the custodial wallets, since they're not plain text in the backend, therefore if there's a breach, they're not vulnerable. Wait for that transaction to go through. Well, thank you for the follow. Cool, so we'll just verify the balance real quick. Get currency balance on the same wallet ID. We get so we have 100 baguette in our external wallet. So here's where the magical stuff happens. Now we want to transfer from our external wallet to arcdev2, which is just another player. So we'll just copy arcdev2's ID. Transfer. Grab our baguette currency ID again. We'll send 50 from our external wallet. Typically, within any other situation, you would need to pop up MetaMask since this is coming from an external wallet address. The private key is not on MetaFab. There is no secure credentials that were ever shared with MetaFab. This is all using contract level magic with security considerations to allow my external wallet to transfer this token gaslessly to another person while the balance is still being owned and controlled by my external wallet. So let's set arcdev1 is the one that had the external wallet just set. Password is testing. And I don't know, we can do just some arbitrary number, 12, I guess. 50 would be fine. So we should have 88 token left in our external wallet, and yeah, this transaction should go through. Was this my holy shit innovation moment? Yes, it was. The transaction went through, and let's verify it. We'll go to Polygon scan. Give it a sec. Polygon scan has to update. Okay, and OX38CD, which was our external wallet, just double check that it matches. OXCD, I'll just do a find. External wallet sent 12 bread baguettes to arcdev2, our other player, but no signing was required. The private key was never shared. And what this means is that our players that use external wallets can do pretty much anything in game, gaslessly, frictionlessly, never having to deal with MetaMask pop-ups. It means mainstream players that want to manage their own assets don't have to deal with all the confusion of wallets. And it also means from the developer standpoint, you only have to write one set of API calls for your in-game, your client level logic. So your game client only has to write one set of API type calls, rather than needing to do direct contract interactions specific to external wallets and then some other API specific transactions to custodial wallets. It's all just one here, which is a huge time saver and saves so much pain from the developer standpoint. And if you've built flows where you have to support external or custodial wallets at the same time, I'm sure you recognize the improvement of this type of flow. So yeah, we're transacting as our external wallet now, which is awesome. That also means that we can buy items as our external wallet using anything but native tokens. For native tokens, the external wallet has to approve the transactions, and this is just a security nature of Ethereum, which is how it should be. But you can use things like WETH or native game tokens, stuff like that as well. Buy items, loot boxes, anything a custodial player wallet can do, your external wallet can do, and it's the same patterns, same processes, all of that. Let's move forward. Next thing's probably creating items. I think that items would be the most relevant thing to build next year. And then we could, if there's time, I can't believe it's already an hour and 20 minutes. If there's time, we can get into loot boxes and other systems. But yeah, we can launch an item collection real quick. So again, there are a lot of endpoints specific to item collections. A lot of functionality you can build here, a lot of different things you can use them for. To create the item collection itself, there's no arguments needed. It's just pick your chain and then provide your credentials. You create the actual items on top of the collection with different endpoints after the collection is deployed. I'll just grab my game credentials again. Let it deploy. Oh, thanks. Cody, for the compliment. Yeah, I do think that this system, as people begin to realize, I genuinely believe this is a game changer for how Web3 games can be built. I don't know anything close to it from like an API and tooling standpoint for game devs that makes the game experience basically mirror that of games that aren't using Web2 tech from the friction standpoint. So not needing wallets, transacting, not even really needing to know anything about cryptocurrency, but still allowing digital collectibles and all the beneficial systems that come inherently with using blockchain for things like this. Our item contract deployed. So we can go ahead and copy the address and just double check on Polygon scan. Pretty much if you get a return transaction, you can be guaranteed that it's deployed. Yeah, so this is on Polygon scan. I'll verify it real quick. It'll take me like a minute. Okay. Screen. I'm just verifying the contract on another monitor for anyone who may be wondering. Okay. Give it a second to verify, and then I'll share it in the chat with all of you. All right, we have a verified item contract. We can go ahead and, oh wait, did it verify? Was it verified? Why is it not? Oh, it did verify. Yeah, got our verified item contract. All this stuff's in here. MetaFab. There's item contracts. Our item contracts have so much more beneficial add-ons for extending ERC 1155 implementation for things specifically that you would need as a game. Things as trivial like checking a player's total inventory quantity across all the different items in your collection in a paginated way or in a single contract read that you otherwise can't really do without doing multiple reads with just default ERC 1155 to so many things. We have automatic caching in the back end for when you pull your item metadata. If anything's updated on chain, it'll auto update it. If the last timestamp of an update on chain hasn't changed, it will just pull straight from cache, and it's very, very fast for metadata serving, for any types of reads, all that stuff. It's next level. All right, items created, items contracts created. Let me close all this real quick. Let's go ahead and create an item. So grab our item collection ID. Oh, before I do this real quick, I just want to show you something cool. Is that if we go on OpenSea right now and we throw in our contract address, we might have to mint one item before it shows up, but I thought that you could type in any maybe not. We probably have to mint an item to it before it'll show. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we'll just create an item real quick. But anyways, these are all fully OpenSea compatible. Owners can trade them on any marketplace. It inherits the baseline ERC 1155 implementation. So yeah, it's just like any other NFT or ERC 1155 contract. All right, we'll make an item. Just go through this. Let me grab my collection ID and then I'll explain kind of what we're doing here. So for items, there's a bunch of different fields you can include or exclude depending on your needs. The first one, and a few of these are just required, is a unique integer, positive integer as an ID. And that just sets the unique ID of the specific item type since it is ERC 1155. If you use an ID for an existing item, it will override that existing item on the contract, so be wary of that. But to start, we'll just use item ID 1. Does anyone in the chat have a suggestion for the item type? Should it be like a sword, something weird, staff? Then we can find some art for that. Let me know. Wait a few seconds for the chat delay. Yeah, we'll do the baguette sword. Sounds great. Sounds amazing. Give it a description: a giant baguette sword to slay your foes. Because I don't want to get the base 64 stuff for this, we can just go to Google and just find a temporary image. Baguette sword. Yes. Breathe. I think. Oh, this pixelated yeah. I don't know. They're
Don't
both.
get yourself sued, Ark.
Huh?
Don't get yourself sued.
For baguettes?
For your baguette sword, your copyright sword.
Yeah. I mean, it should be fine. Oh my god, is this a sword in an actual baguette? That's crazy. Like a. That's funny. We'll use this. I just need to copy the image address. I can use that instead of an actual image binary, but you can. So yeah, you have two options here.
Be in one of the loot boxes, by the way.
Yeah, we can make a loot box that gives baguette swords for this demo. Yeah, the bread sword. No broadsword. We'll call it the bread sword. If you want to use IPFS, it just will automatically work if you upload the image yourself using the image base 64 or using the MetaFab dashboard that's coming. Just point, click, select your picture. It'll deploy to IPFS. So no centralized storage. If you use an image URL, it's basically up to you to provide the hosting solution, whether it be a CDN that's centralized or IPFS URL identifier. It does support like IPFS prefixed type URLs. We can provide other stuff, but not really necessary. You can include the attributes like specific to the metadata standards, like what you see in OpenSea. Like, I mean, we'll just do this, I guess. Attack power. Sorry, README is getting in my way. The README is the service we use for our docs, but the what did I? Oh, I hit the link. Sorry. All right. Well, we'll just go back through this. Red sword. 1. Giant baguette sword. Slay the foes. Okay, yep, that's still good. Attack power. Q10. You can also include arbitrary data that's included in the metadata. So things that you might not want to show in OpenSea for the attributes, such as things like model, if there are 3D models attached to these and you need them to have a resolver URL in the metadata, which for example NFT Worlds needs for our assets, you can just include an arbitrary data object that has key value pairs, and you can look those up via your API endpoints when you look up specific items. That's super helpful. Yeah, let me grab our collection ID again. We will go ahead and create this chain. Password is testing. Different between. Is there a way to mint a dynamic item from a collection? Yeah, you could do that. So using the same endpoint, if you want it to be like an ERC 1155, so not like a unique one-of-one NFT, which we will have support for in the future, but this is for 1155 tokens. As you're creating unique instances of items, you would just say track like your ID encounter, and then based on the things like the item's dynamic name or description or attributes, whenever in your backend for say a player's crafting something or like creates a special combination of an item, you would just assign the stuff dynamically here and create the item by invoking the endpoint on the backend, and it'll create. You will then need to mint the item to the player. So I should clarify, this creating the item process is just setting, it's not creating, it's not minting any quantity of the item yet. This is just saying on our collections contract that this item ID is this item type, but we're not creating any quantity of the item yet. We can do that later with the mint collection item down here. Let me go ahead and submit. Invalid author. Oh, did I? Oh, I put the, sorry. I hadn't copied the secret key. I put the items contract ID back. I'm not copying. There we go. No, you don't need to create a collection for each unique instance. You create one collection, and at one collection, so that collection contract here, the items collection contract that we created and deployed, it can have been basically an infinite number of items, and each item you create within the collection using this endpoint by setting their IDs. So yeah, for example, that created our item ID of 1, our Baguette sword. We can get a list of the collections items that have been created by just passing in the collection ID. And if say we've created, 100 unique items, or 10, 20, 50,000 dynamically creative items, or just like our game has a set of 500 different types of items, we can get all their metadata in one shot from here. So that item ID 1 I created, it returns the image URL to resolve it, such as if I need to show it in an inventory screen or something, the name, description, attributes, all that good stuff. And yeah, we can keep adding items in here. I'll add one more in here because we're going to demo it later. I'll just add a loot box, but this will show you that you don't have to create a collection for each individual item. One collection can have as many items as you need. The only reason you'd ever need to create multiple collections is, say, if you deploy one collection to the mainnet like Matic chain, like I just did, and let's say in your development environment you want a collection that resides on the testnet, the mainnet and the testnet collection would be two separate collections, just because they reside on different networks, the test network and the main network. And that's kind of like how you can do your production items contract and your staging or development items contract. I'm going to create item 2, make it the bread loot box. See if I can find a bread loot box. Treasure chest of bread. I get some pixelated one. We'll just, I don't know, find something fun. Composable ERC 998 support. It's possible. I mean, the way our systems are set up let us very quickly deploy support for different contract standards and extending them in a way that works for games. Like ERC, I don't actually know off the top of my head what ERC 998 is. Let me look. Composable non-fungible token standards. Yeah, it's something we could support if there's enough demand for it. It's just a matter of us being focused on what are the majority of the developers looking for and the feedback we're receiving that they need for their needs. And those are the things we prioritize first. If that happens to be 998, we can absolutely add it. I'm just going to save this random chest, even though it has a watermark on it. But It's fine. We'll use the image address. Or actually, this is better. We'll use this. Create my item. Box made of bread. What's inside? Not using image upload, so I'll just use the URL. I don't know, we don't need to include any attributes. I need my game credentials. Got my access to for my secret key. For my game password. What is this? So someone asked, I was wondering inside a collection if I created a collection item, say bread sword, but every time it was minted, I wanted it to have random stats in the scope of a bread sword. Would I be able to mint these as the same collection item ID, or each instance? You would need a different collection item ID for each of these. And the reason being, for any NFT or digital collectible type standard, there's a set of data that is attached to the item ID on chain. It's called metadata, and it's attached to the item ID on chain, but it points to some random URL. But for any given item ID to have varying metadata compared to the same item, the IDs would need to be different because fundamentally they have different data assigned to them. And you can't have a single ID with like various, if this is the ID, like you can't have branching sets of data attributes. So you would need to create a unique ID per item. Which is, it would be very fast. It'd be 2 API calls, one to generate the dynamic item ID and one to mint. The other solution too is you could do like a hybrid centralized decentralized approach where maybe you track if the player has the item, and then you could assign like their player specific dynamic attributes for the item in like a centralized database. Or we have a player data storage service as well that I haven't really demoed yet, but you could use that. There are solutions. Okay, so our bread loot box created. I'm gonna mint one of our bread swords to just arcdev. I will need to get the later player. Sorry, I don't think I updated my player object I had saved there after I changed to an external wallet. Grab that. Cool. Okay, so this is the external wallet ID I want to mint to. Copy that ID, and we will mint big gets to sorry, mint collection item. That wallet ID will mint 1. The item ID for the bread sword was 1 within the collection, and we just need the ID of the collection within the MetaFab system again. Get our secret key. Since we're minting, this is all on chain. A transaction has to be submitted, so we need to password up again. Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm glad that answered. All right, so that it. I think now we can actually take a look at our contract address on OpenSea, and because there's been one item minted, we should be able to pull it up. Let me check this transaction real quick. Yep, so token ID 1 minted to the external wallet. Let me grab my contract address. Um, yeah, so it shows up now that one item's been minted as an unidentified contract, and we have our bread sword. And there is one owner, and it is my external wallet. Yeah, 38 CD5. It's a great looking bread sword. So yeah, that just shows like all these API level interactions that you can do through MetaFab for minting items, creating items. It's all on chain. It's all just like any standard set of contracts and contract interactions to do these things. It's just way faster, way easier. You're using like REST APIs rather than the direct smart contract interactions. And to make all the systems that we've shown you guys so far today, it would probably take a developer, I don't know, weeks, months, a team, weeks to just implement so far what we've done. And to make both the Gasless systems, the wallet connection, the currencies with all the transfer and Gasless methods with fee accounting for, and all those different things, it would take a very long time. But like, we're an hour 40 minutes in, with maybe the first 5 or 10 minutes being waiting for people to pile in, and we've made what are basically the fundamentals for a full-scale Web3 game with all of the friction already removed through the different ways you can invoke the APIs. So now I just would need to make a great game. And these systems just kind of tie in underneath for the different needs that I have. Yeah. Oh, maybe this could be interesting, just to kind of drive the point home again that external wallet that we were transferring out of without ever needing to sign anything that I had connected, the ArcDev test, being able to send, receive items and whatnot. Like I can sign into OpenSea now, like any other wallet would, and I should have my item. If I go in here, yeah, and I can sell it just like any other item. It's a bread sword on the Polygon blockchain. Yeah. Did we show the non-managed yet? You're placing a bid. Bid on my bread sword. Yeah, I showed the non-managed wallet, the custodial wallet. I can run through it again with this next set of interactions. Yeah, that could be useful. So Lunar, just to catch you up to speed, we have an auth flow for connecting wallets that we branded. So this is, you can make this look specific to your game how you need it to. You set the flow to connect, you sign in here, and then you just use MetaMask to pick the wallet you want to connect to your player account. In this case, it was ArcDev, and I connected the wallet starting 038C. We did a test earlier where I minted, I think it was 50 or 100 token to this external wallet, OX38DC. And just by invoking the MetaFab APIs, I was able to transfer a token on behalf as if I was the player with the player provided password to another wallet, gaslessly. So I didn't have to bounce back into MetaMask to sign the transactions. I didn't have to go through any friction. And again, you can't use just a wallet. Like for player registration? The flow doesn't have that right now, just because player objects need to be created internally, but I think we'll probably add it. We'll probably just make a configurable query parameter here, and then behind the scenes we'll probably do something where like the player's ID is linked to a signature from the wallet address or something for authing them. That's pretty easy to do. We did just finish this auth flow like yesterday to what it is now, so adding something like that where it's just connect wallet without player account would probably take a day, maybe a day and a half, if that. But I think it's something a lot of people have demanded, so we'll probably build it too. But yeah, let me go back. Yeah, yep. Yeah, the flow, I mean, our goal is to make the flow better than any other solution off the shelf you can use, and like 100 times faster and infinitely cheaper, because all of these systems are free. Like, you don't have to pay us anything to use this. It's just open, sign up, and you get all of this. The pricing model for this stuff later, when we begin to charge, is intended to be developer and indie friendly. So the only things we'll really offer that are have costs associated with them are if you're like a really large scale game, like enterprise scale, and you need things like 24/7 support or like custom touch contracts to be made that integrate into MetaFab systems, or like our development team to build these side systems. These would be built into an enterprise plan. Everything below that would be free. And we can do this because our underlying costs are really cheap. We run all this on top of AWS, but the biggest costs are, covering gas for transaction fees and stuff. But in the same way that a game would pay for their own server costs, a game pays for their own gasless transactions for their players. And with Matic and Arbitrum, if you're deploying on those, they're very cheap. Like Matic gasless transactions will cost you per player transaction like 100th or 1,000th of a penny. It really just depends on gas fees at the time. What engine is the new NFT Worlds, or should I? The Worlds being built on. We are doing an OpenGL implementation on top of Rust. So we have a few very talented OpenGL developers that are building out the engine side of the game client. And yeah, I think we'll actually have a demo, like a very early alpha. I don't know if we'll share it to play, but we may do a demo video in like January. Like, we're talking like wireframes, physics, sticks, like very small area to run around in type thing, where it's kind of demoing the earliest stages of the game. If we develop add-ons for Rust or NFT Worlds, do we need to learn Rust? No. So the game client side is being built in Rust, but the server side, which is what you'd use to implement your own worlds and games and things like that, our goal is to make them as close to parity as the Spigot and Bucket APIs on the Java side that Minecraft developers have always been familiar with. And then those abstract down currently into Minecraft server code. So we would basically rewrite everything underneath that those APIs plug into, such that the functionality of those APIs from a developer standpoint are to parity of what they were already building on the Minecraft side. But it's our game engine, our game server. It just makes it so much easier for them to onboard. So you don't need to learn Rust. You just need to know like the existing Java Minecraft. Why OpenGL and Rust? So Minecraft is built on top of Java, but the benefits of building our own engine from the ground up using Rust and OpenGL is we can squeeze a lot more performance out of the client side for the Minecraft things. It also allows us to use things like sorry, my brain is I'm talking too much. It also allows us to add support for WebGL on the Rust side. So it means that the game client will effectively be able to run at near native frame rates in the web browser, as well as a standalone game client application on a computer, because of the underlying Rust libraries, frameworks that we're using. So that means that players will be able to come into the new NFT Worlds via browser for the first time if they don't want to download the application, create a player account very quickly. You'll be able to play this on the so new NFT Worlds will be fully browser compatible. It should run at near native frame rate on any near modern computer or browser, and you'll have full set of features there. So PC and browser are the first focus for launch. It's also 100% free because this is not Minecraft anymore. This is NFT Worlds, and we're choosing to take a model where it's free. Like, you just go to the web browser, sign up as a player, you can begin playing in different worlds people have made. RuneScape throwback, basically. We are almost at 2 hours. There's so many other systems that we could showcase, but I don't want to just keep pushing time, just because, and know you guys have been here a while, and anyone watching this, 2 hours is a lot to kind of watch through. But there's a few other things. I don't know if you guys want to pick maybe one or two of them, or maybe just one of them that we could showcase. Are like creating shops, basically systems where players can pay using ETH or your game currency, or a combination, to buy different items from your item collections, and how we have contracts and API systems for that. And then we have loot box systems, so you can do like randomized item outputs by using loot box. Do I mind showing the metadata of the sort on OpenSea? Yeah, sure. Yeah, TAC bar 10. I think that's all we said on it. But I could pull up the actual JSON. Do I? I'm trying to think if I have an IPFS gateway set up for this. Actually, yeah, I think we do. I should be able to go. Let's see. Collection. Or music stuff. Valid. Oh, this is that was the Baguette token. Or sorry, the items. Yeah, I could showcase loot boxes. We'll just need to make one or two more item types. Yeah. Oh, I guess this isn't in data. Where did I learn my skills? Like development skills. I don't know. I've been programming for a long time, but I'd say most of it is kind of no-lifing my 20s. Sitting here doing what you see right now is pretty much all I've done the last decade. Has its pros and cons, but one of the benefits is you get pretty good at building systems, understanding patterns for development, and building startups. So yeah, it's kind of just a long road of iteration and improving my abilities. All right, let's do loot boxes, and then we'll close it out. So for loot boxes, we're gonna need like 2 or 3 more items, such there's a random variety of things that you could get. Internships at NFT Worlds, not yet, but as we continue to grow, we have more positions opening up and whatnot. But we like to keep like, let me find some item types while I talk about this. We like to keep or at least I like to keep the teams that I work with very lean and very high performing individuals. So, a typical software team might have something like, I don't know, 20 engineers, 30 engineers on a team, with a variety from interns to principal level engineers. At least in this early stage, I always prefer to have, 1 or 2 very good principal level high output engineers working on systems until they get a little bit more mature, just because there's less bureaucracy. They are quite a bit more flexible in terms of iterating and kind of pivoting the ship. But yeah, as we grow, we'll scale up the team. But I prefer small teams. Easy ways to set up your Lunar. So when you create an item, if you provide the image upload not as a URL but as like the base 64 of the image, it automatically uploads to IPFS. I should maybe include that in the documentation here, but yeah, image uploads are automatically IPFS. Image URLs just let it resolve to whatever URL you need. I'll make a note of that later. I'm just going to create a few more bows so that we can demo this real quick. Call this the shaman bow, a big bow for shaman. I don't know. Put that in there. Get my credential. Testing. Create that one, and then in the meantime, looks cool. What is this? Like a multi-shot bow or something? Oh, ID. Did I not provide an ID? I did not. And I didn't provide a collection. Okay. Create that, and then let's do multi-shot bow. We're just creating a set of items so there's enough variety for the loot box. Um, 10K PFP items through MetaFab. Yeah, you could use like the batching APIs for items. If you wanted to do like a traditional NFT collection, like a PFP, like profile picture, or like all of them being one of ones. We don't have support yet for using the ERC 721 standard, which is what those NFTs are based on. But we will add them because there's value in them for like unique game avatars, one-of-one skins, things like that. For now, you can use 1155s for a variety of your use cases. Created that item, and let's just create the multi-shot bow. Put a new URL, multi-shot bow. One second. Oh, I'm still muted. Sorry, I had someone at the door. All right, yeah, we got to create the multi-shot bow. This will be the last item, so we can demonstrate the loot box behavior. Get that one. All this stuff I'm doing too, like if you're just looking at this and being like, oh my gosh, this is a lot as I'm going through. If you go to our docs, there are under this home section full like step-by-step follow guides that you can do that teach you exactly how to use all these systems and kind of explain the different processes for using them. The education and onboarding side of this stuff will get way better over time. But like right now, it's really been a high focus on building our systems and polishing them while giving enough, for developers to use and go off of. When ChatGPT and MetaFab collab. I mean, we could do something interesting there, but I would love to see people make a game using ChatGPT, and then you can use the MetaFab systems for your different items and things you earn in the game. All right, so we have 3 items now: bread loot boxes, and then the 3 possible items that you could get out of it: a bread sword, shaman bow, or a multi-shot bow. I need to deploy a loot box system now. So under the loot box systems, we have to create a loot box manager. And a loot box manager is just a high-level contract that manages all your loot boxes. Gonna deploy it to the Matic chain. Get my keys. Copy. Testing. This is what front end framework do I like? I use React pretty much day to day for stuff, but yeah, React definitely on the website. When I've done mobile apps up until like the last 4 years, I've used React Native. Those are pretty much my go-tos. And then like native applications on PCs, I'll use like Electron or stuff like that. All right, let me I deployed the loopbox manager. I'm just gonna verify the contract real quick. Let me copy the credentials from it. So we have our reference we can go off of. So I don't have to keep copy and pasting or going to different endpoints to get my my loot boxes or my items again. I need the address. I'm gonna verify this one. Verifying this off screen. Or, I mean, I guess I can show you guys. There's nothing really to hide here. I just have a terminal open, and I'm putting these arguments into hard hat verification. Yeah. Oh. This is nuts. This can open up all sorts. Oops. Yeah, I mean that's the point. The intention is for this to be as simple and flexible of a system for web games to build on top of. And yeah, I mean I think I feel like I can say with full confidence. I've looked at so many other different frameworks and services that are trying to do like Web3 gaming infrastructure, but they're all, I don't know, they're all either very fragmented, they're only focusing on being great at one thing, which is fine, but like for NFT Worlds, for example, and what we've seen from game developers is you need a really well meshing set of systems that work really well together. They don't get in your way when you're just kind of in flow state doing development, but you can just deploy very quickly in a way that's consistent, expected, like things perform as expected, and you don't have to build a lot of these systems by yourself. So, and that's just kind of what we're trying to offer with MetaFab. All right, I verified our loot box contract. These contracts are actually not very big. There's a lot of logic in them though, to handle the randomness and all those different things. Do them that is fully on chain. Fully on chain, and you're not using something like VRF Chainlink. Those loot boxes, you can because Ethereum is deterministic. You can figure out like what would be given in a loot box on any given block or game it. But the way that we do it is to open a loot box, you burn it, and then as a game, you can set a difficulty level. By default, it is 1. That difficulty level is the number of blocks in the future that have to be weighted until before the contents of that loot box are calculated. So because the contents of X blocks in the future like typically cannot be known unless someone were to game it as a miner or someone wants to stuff like 5 blocks, in which case you can make the difficulty relative to the item value as many blocks in the future as possible. You can use that future block hash, X blocks in the future, as the random seed with a few other pieces in there as well to generate random outputs without having to rely on a third party for providing randomness. That's super cool. Yeah, all right, we created our loot box manager. I will try and keep this under 2 hours and 30 minutes. We have 25 minutes left. We're gonna set a loot box on our loot box manager. So our loot box manager ID is this. the ID of the loot box, the specific loot box that is underneath the loot box manager will just be 1. We need a few things. So there's so many combinations you can do with loot boxes, which are really cool. You can make loot boxes to open them require 1 item from a specific collection, multiple items from a specific collection. This lets you do behaviors like, oh, in order to open this really rare loot box that maybe I found in game while exploring, I need the loot box itself, or it's a treasure chest or something like that. And as an NFT, like the treasure chest is an item in my items collection, therefore that item can be traded too. So these allow tradable loot boxes inherently. And I also need like a special key to open it. And in order to unlock that loot box and get access to claiming, you know, the possible randomized contents in it, I need to have both the key and the treasure chest. And you can make systems like this. So for this one, we're just going to require the bread loot box that we created on our items contract earlier. But there's so many different things you can do that are pretty cool as far as flexibility goes. I am a JavaScript. I love JavaScript. JavaScript, TypeScript, Solidity, all that stuff. Do I still Google stuff at this point? Maybe once or twice a day I will Google something, but like I really don't need to Google much these days. If I'm using maybe like regular expressions or things like that, I will have to often Google, which I think anyone would unless you're a maniac and you know how regular expressions work just off the top of your head. Yeah. So, anyways, let's see. Okay, back to this. We're going to create our loot box. So what is required to open this loot box? What items does the player have to burn to open it? We're going to make it that treasure chest, or sorry, our bread loot box. Our bread loot box is in that collection that we created, the items collection we created earlier. So we provide the collection item ID. And then the input collection item ID is required. I think the bread loot box was 2. We can just double check that. Let me pull the items. Here. So yeah, ID2 is the bread loot box. So we'll require ID2, the bread loot box, in order to open this loop, the contents of this loot box type. The items that the collection of the items that are outputted come from. So it's the same collection. The item IDs, if I remember, are 1, 3, and 4. Oops. 4. 1 is our bread sword. 2 is our 3 is our shaman bow, and 4 I think is our multi-shot bow. The amounts. So if, for example, like let's say item ID 1 is picked, I could have it give 5 quantity of item ID 1, or in this case, if you get any of the items out of the loot box, you're just going to get 1. But this allows for other, you know, dynamic or flexible use cases where maybe you could get 10 like gold sacks, or 1 super rare sword, or 5 like healing potions or something, with variable quantity of different item types that you could roll or land on when you open the loot box. The weights. So this is where the randomness comes in, and you can set the weighted randomness of each item output. So the weights are specific to mess stuff up. My screen might flicker. I'm sorry. For a second. 2 4K monitors plus my 16-inch MacBook Pro run, it is on the limit of the battery power supply, and so I can actually drain my battery and computer. So I had to unplug those. Hopefully not, at least. Sorry, can you guys, am I still here? Just gonna say in the chat. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, sorry. Like I said, I unplugged my monitors. I don't know if you guys heard me. I have two 4K monitors. They just suck the power out of my laptop. I'm working on a laptop, and even with the power supply plugged in, it can cause my computer to die, which would have been bad given that we're on stream. But anyways, let's go back to here. I think we were talking about item weights. So for our loot box, we can set the probabilities that like I might get item ID 1, which is the bread sword, or item ID 3, which was the shaman bow, item ID 4, which is multi-shot. So the indexes in which each of these weights are set correspond to the indexes in which the item IDs are set. So the first index, or index 0, is item ID 1. So this is the weight for item ID 1. The second one is item ID 3, or index 1, item ID 3, and then this is the same weight for it, etc. So I think the bread sword should be the rarest. So the higher the weight a item has for the loot box, the more likely it is to be picked in randomness. So I'm just gonna give the bread sword a weight of 1. The shaman, or no, sorry, yeah, the shaman bow a weight of 5, and maybe the multi-shot bow a weight of 7. So the way that weights are used to calculate is that if you take the sum of all the weights, so 1 plus 6, or sorry, 1 plus 5 is 6, plus 7 is 13. That means that our bread sword has a 1 in 13 chance of being picked. Our shaman bow has a 5 in 13 chance of being picked, and our multi-shot bow has a 7 in 13 chance of being picked when our loot box is opened. And then the last argument you can provide, or you need to provide, is the number of like pick cycles, the number of outputs that the loot box gives. So if I do 1, it's just going to randomly select one possible item from the weight. If I did 2, it'll basically do the random interval twice and give me 2 outputs. So it could be, you know, if it landed on the multi-shot bow, since it has a high weight, twice, I would get 2 multi-shot bows. Since each pick of it gives 1 quantity, 1 plus 1 is 2. Or, you know, if it picked like the bread sword and the multi-shot bow, I get a bread sword and multi-shot bow if the number of output items, total output items was 2, stuff like that. Yeah, look at the chat. You guys like the gorilla mount? I like the gorilla mount. Let's go ahead and we're gonna set this loot box password. I think I set everything right on this. Cannot estimate. I probably what did I do? Mismatched input. Oh, I did not do. Oh, I didn't set the input item quantity requirements. So I didn't say that you just need 1 of the bread treasure loot box. You could set it where you need 10. You need to burn 10 bread treasure loot boxes, or maybe you need like 10 gems to open this specific loot box, things like that. That's why it failed. Yeah, let's go ahead and set that. Setting it on chain, so just has to submit the transaction. Good to debug these requests. Oh yeah. So the cool thing is, yeah, all the error responses, if they're on track level errors, we have nice sanitized error message handling. So usually when you get an error out of contract interactions, you'll just get this big blob of like RPC level errors, and it's all these like escaped JSON encoding, annoying stuff. yeah, the MetaFab APIs just normalize it so you can actually read what happened and what went wrong. All right, let's see. I think something hung up a bit, but I can just go ahead and I probably forgot something. Yeah, I'll just go through it. Redo this again. I remember off the top of my head. Box manager, ID, input collection. Item ID 2 for the bread loot box. You need one of them. Output collection is the same. Item collection ID. What's our bread sword, shaman bow, and multi-shot. Then only get one of any picked. Weights. Our bread sword's the rarest. 5, 7. One output item, and then my you can probably see if you're not having to explain stuff as you go. It is very, very fast to use these APIs. I think this will go through everything in correctly. Yeah, okay, that's it. Just let me check the transaction hash. I probably maybe forgot an argument in the last post or something, but more stuff for me to just double check when more stuff for me to double check later. So we have our loot box. One thing that we need to do is, you're probably wondering how this works, is loot boxes are separate from your item collection contract. So if someone's opening a loot box, how does that loot box give items from a separate contract to the player? Well, there's two ways. So by default, a loot box cannot mint items on behalf of an item collection contract. Instead, it will attempt to transfer the rewarded items from opening the loot box from its own balance. So this actually lets you do some cool things where you can have loot boxes that give items that may be from contracts that you don't own. And all you have to do is hold, the right quantity of the reward as being held by the address of the loot box contract. And so it would just transfer from its own balance when a player opens loot box, receives the item. Or the more common pattern is you probably are going to want to just give the loot box the ability to mint those items as they're rewarded from opening the loot box. And to do that, you just grant the minter role. You basically approve the loot box contract address as having permission to mint items from the collection. So I'm just going to do that real quick. And yeah, even in the docs, it kind of explains this to you as you go. So this is using access control on the smart contract side, but there are shorthands, so you don't have to put the like the byte hash or the role. You can just put minter if you want to give a specific address minter permissions. This, you will need to copy the address of the contract for approval. Then my game key. That should grant the role. Once this is granted, we can go ahead and open up a loot box and see what items we get. Cool, so that granted. So now our loot box contract has permissions to mint items that are selected from the output contract, which is our items contract. I think I need to give actually a bread loot box to my ArcDev player first. Let me just see. Does this generate a contract or is this just server calls? This is a contract. So Lootbox Manager is a contract. Yeah, exactly, Lunar. So you deploy one Lootbox Manager, and then use the setting of loot boxes on the loot box manager through the APIs to set different types of loot box on that one loot box manager contract. And the same way that you have a collection contract for items typically, like collection and then many items within the collection, you have a loot box manager and many loot boxes within the loot box manager. Is there a default failover when the contract runs out of that reward? Yes. So you would get a 400 error from the API. If, let's say, the loot box contract runs out of a balance to transfer, the transaction won't process. It'll we basically will dry run it in our backend and attempt to execute the transaction locally, not on chain, to make sure that it will run based on the current chain state. If we see that, oh, the current balance on chain of the needed items for this loot box address are less than the required quantity or whatever, it'll throw 400 error and it'll say that, reward amount or transfer amount exceeds loot box contract balance. In which case, the item that the player attempted to burn to open the loot box, it won't burn it because it was just a dry run against the contract state to see if they were able to execute the transaction. And also, smart contracts are all or nothing. So a contract, even if you try and force it, a transaction, even if you force it through, will not fully execute if the entire thing cannot execute. So it's either it all works or it doesn't. So it's not like you would burn and then there's no balance and then you'd lose an item that you burned. It will just revert it back to the previous state. Will there be a dashboard? Yes. Let me show you a dashboard real quick before we get into some other stuff. I'm gonna have to pull up my so this is what's coming for MetaFab in probably the next month. Like all these API level interactions that I'm doing are, a lot of it's just one-time setup and management and things like that. And you don't really want to have to do that via API access. I mean, you can, and it works, but like, wouldn't it be so much easier if you just had a point and click dashboard where you can launch your currencies and mint your currencies and create your items and create your item collections and manage your item collections and manage your players and all the items within your collections and your loot boxes and your shops and all these different things. So yeah, this is what's coming to MetaFab in the next month, so that you don't have to go through all these setup processes via API or the API docs. And I think this is going to be one of the catalysts that really propels adoption of the platform. The other catalyst is, I think when we update our landing page and it becomes clear the value of the things that we're building, rather than it just saying blockchain gaming API and you have no idea as a developer like what that means. But yeah, there's a lot of really powerful stuff coming. All of it for free. Well, it's all free because we want to be the de facto like market dominating infrastructure provider, because there's other opportunities for us from there. First and foremost, like the enterprise level pricing stuff, we can make unifying marketplaces across all the games in the future, and we can monetize there. But for the developer and the game side individually, we want them to be able to use this stuff for free. Yeah, and making liquidity pools and cross-game token swaps and things like that, and systems for that to interoperate all this stuff. That's like another second layer system that can be built to, bring more value to the space, but also allow us to take like a very small fee for facilitating the transfer of, say, trading tokens between games or things like that. But our goal here is not to build a service that costs a lot of money and just extracts money out of it, because one, our costs are so low that it doesn't matter. We want to give everything that the Web3 gaming space needs to reach the potential we think it can reach. And without all these tools built in a way that removes all the friction and all the barriers still, which no other platform, to my knowledge, has done yet, you can't. I don't think we will see mainstream Web3 game adoption until yeah, until these solutions are adopted at scale, whether it be us providing solutions or someone else, but there's no one else that we found that is close at this point. So anyways, let's go back to our loot boxes. Yeah, so this is dashboard stuff. Exciting. What did we just do? We granted our role, and I think now, oh, we just need to give my ArcDev account a loot box to open. So let's go to, we'll give it to my external wallet. So you can see the external wallets demonstrated, external wallet transactions demonstrated again. Wallet ID, we'll give 5 bread loot boxes. Items contract that all these items live on. The bread loot box was ID 2. Let's grab my game credentials. And then I think it should be, you can double check on OpenSea and valid address. Or, oh, I think I put an address in the wallet ID field. Other way around. Yeah, no worries. The wrong field. Cool. So that minted. If we go back to our unidentified contract, OpenSea should update in a second. It might take a little bit for it to pull the chain data down, but eventually those bread loot boxes will show in there. I can just double check the inventory, which is another valuable thing. Let me see. Item balances. Yeah, so this is a really useful endpoint that lets you see the balance of every item in a collection for a given player ID or for a given wallet ID or any wallet address on chain. So just wallet ID, our external wallet ID, we should see that we have, yeah, so ID2 was our red loot boxes, ID1 and a balance of 1, which is our sword, so that's all right. I want to see the bread loot boxes on OpenSea. Oh yeah, there it is. So yeah, our bread loot boxes. And now we can finish off just this demo by opening one of our loot boxes. We'll open a loot box from our loot box manager. This is the ID of our loot box manager. The loot box ID within the manager, I believe, was 1. And the game. Oh, sorry. We need, in this case, the access token. This is we provide the individual that's interacting with the loot box to open it here. Oh, he's a sucker for new tech. I'm glad you like it. This is, I mean, this has only taken 3 builds, so imagine a year from now. But yeah, I really genuinely think this is what the space needs to bring Web3 games to the mainstream. I need my player account, ArcDev. So this should burn from my external wallet, which I'm not signing a transaction for. And it should open my loot box. This will take a second. So it has to wait 1 additional block confirmation before it can attempt to open or claim the contents of the loot box because of how the randomization system works. It uses a future unknown block hash, X blocks in the future. And yeah, there we go. So it also performs 2 transactions. The first transaction opens the loot box, which basically burns it, sets an indicator on the smart contract for the loot boxes that this individual has burned it, has a pending claim. And then once the required amounts of blocks have passed, it then claim the loot box. in this case, it was one block. It will wait one block, and then it will trigger the claim function on the previous open attempt. If we look at the claim, we should be able to see what item IDs we got. So yeah, we got item ID 4 out of this. And then if we go to OpenSea, I should see that my external wallet, again, that I didn't even transact with. Oh, it's got to update the metadata. My external wallet is the one that owns this and also burned Lootbox on its behalf. Give OpenSea a second to update metadata. But yeah, I should have 4 loot boxes. Yeah, so I only have 4, and again, this is my external wallet from my MetaMask. So you can use external wallets with no friction and delegate approval for transaction signing just specific to the game contracts and enable this frictionless behavior like this. We can go ahead and open another loot box. I'll just replay the request, see if we get a bread sword out of it. But like I said, the bread sword is the rarest. It's a 1 in 14 chance, I think is what we made it. Is there a game engine being made to work with these APIs? Yeah, we have, I mean, from a game engine standpoint, we have a fully functional Unity SDK that has all of this already supported. So if you're a Unity game developer, you can just build a Unity game like you do, and you just import our SDK, which is, oh cool, this works. We'll check what we got in a second, but you can use any one of our SDKs, specifically in this case Unity, our C# Unity SDK, just include it. And all these SDKs are documented. Like if I go into the JavaScript SDK for MetaFab, like every single class, function, API endpoint that it invokes, all the stuff you're seeing me do from the web console right now, you can do programmatically through these SDKs, and they work the exact same using your preferred language, whatever it is you want to do. And there's a lot here. Like everything that you're seeing it's supported is supported on, let's see, I think it's 8 or 10 languages already. So we have Android, you can do native mobile Android, C#, Unity, C# in general, C++ with Unreal Engine 4, Go, Java, JavaScript, PHP, Python, Rust, Swift 5, and TypeScript using the Fetch API. So there's a lot of SDKs already. Yeah, a lot of APIs, a lot of SDKs. Yeah. Check this next loot box opening. See what we got. This would be so much cooler, you know, if we had a visual opening, which you could build yourself. But it looks like we got another shaman bow, I think, which was, I think, 6 out of 14 chance. Yeah, or sorry, it's a multi-shot bow. Multi-shot was ID 4. Yeah, so now I own 2 because my 2 loot boxes both gave me that. Okay, open another one. Yeah, I think we'll probably be done in a few minutes. But if you guys have any more questions, I can take, you know, the next 5-10 minutes to answer whatever it may be. Be helpful. When do you think the game will be released? End of 2020? I think it's likely we have a public beta. My hope is before the start of Q3, but I think it's possible. Then the target is Q2 for like public beta, for like an actual usable product, ready to go, playable, with some of the basic pieces. Before the end of 2023, yeah, the NFT Worlds game engine should be, at the current trajectory, it should be in a good spot. Are the dev teams separate for NFT Worlds and MetaFab? Yeah, they are. So the NFT Worlds engineering team on the game engine has 7 developers. One like project manager / lead, and then, you know, I believe 2 or 3 of them are OpenGL like experts. Others are very specifically focused on physics engines, anti-cheat, you know, different pieces that are necessary. Crazy how much work is being done. Yeah, we have a good team, so you know, it's not if you get really talented people, even though there's not that many of them, you can get a lot done. And that's the idea that I think drives the best early stage startups. Oh, cool. We got a shaman bow from this loot box opening. That was ID3. Our third loot box yielded a shaman bow, which should start populating in here. Yeah, we got the shaman bow. I think I only have 2 loot boxes left. Maybe we'll get another bread sword. I could sell these loot boxes to you guys, and you could open them too, gaslessly, frictionlessly. But we're just gonna close this out with 2 more openings. Dropping alpha. It's funny, I got called Mark all the time in the survival multiplayer server by just like the regular Minecraft players, because my username is iamarkdev, all lowercase, and they thought it was iamarkdev. So I'm not, not a stranger to being called Mark. I got another shaman bow. Maybe this last one will get a bread sword. That would be cool. Should have 1 left. Yep, just 1 left. Yeah. All right. Let's see what we got. Wait for that to confirm. And we got another multi-shot. So, yeah, you know, the 1 in 14 chance I opened 5 loot boxes, I didn't get a bread sword, but you can see how the weights come into play here, and you can do so many combinations for loot boxes. You can sell these things for ETH or Matic or whatever chain you're on, and do a lot of cool stuff. Yeah, so if we if we had time, you know, if we were not at 2 hours and 30 minutes, I would create a shop right now, and maybe for 100 bread token, you could buy 1 loot box item, and then you'd be able to open that loot box item. So you can use MetaFab shops for that, all gasless. Or I could make it where the shop sells, or I can make it where the shop sells bread loot boxes for like 0.1 ETH each, and that would work. Or if I'm on Matic, it could be like 10 Matic token for a loot box. USDC you could use. We will have a cash on ramp for MetaFab with, you know, as easy as you've seen the other APIs work, it'll work just as easy, and we'll probably do in the same way we did a login register auth flow for wallet and for Wallet Connect, we'll probably do something for cash on ramps for people to buy tokens for your game or items in your game using credit cards. Yeah, there's a lot to come. But anyways, if you guys have any more questions, I would love to answer them. If not, I'll probably end the stream. You want to work in ETH for external wallets? Would that have no. So this is the one thing, is that external wallets, with the approval delegation, you cannot spend the native token without an explicit transaction approval to buy stuff with native token. This is at the core because of a limitation on the way the Ethereum virtual machine works, but it's also a security reason. Right, like the blast radius, when you approve a game to delegate signing on behalf of your external wallet, should not have access to any of your non-game assets, such as ETH or any other smart contracts not related to the game you explicitly approved. And so, yeah, that's one of the limitations, is you would have to, explicitly sign or transfer in ETH to the external wallet and approve it specifically. It. How will the adoption of MetaFab benefit holders of Worlds and World, if at all? Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, one, we are building these systems now, and games are implementing them. It fast tracks NFT Worlds on the development side, because as games are implementing it, you know, at a scale that's meaningful before we are. We're catching the bugs, we're fixing things as fast as possible, and that means when NFT Worlds launches, a lot of the issues at the MetaFab infrastructure side will already have been ironed out. And it just means a faster, smoother route to scale for us. The other side is that in order to enable different worlds to launch their own items, their own loot boxes, their own collections, different things like that within the NFT Worlds game platform, we needed a open set of standard infrastructure APIs for them to build on top of. And that is where MetaFab comes in as well. So we give these, soon it will be point and click dashboard systems to create item contracts and whatnot. And then they just use the developer APIs or SDKs to implement the functionality in game. But it'll make that process so much faster and smoother for them to launch content and digital collectibles, all these things that would otherwise be a big pain if they aren't smart contract developers first and foremost. You know, or if they have not grasped the necessary understandings for working with Solidity contracts, because we take all of that away with MetaFab. How's liquidity pool for that going to work? Liquidity pool for what specifically? Like, I think Stubidub92 is like what liquidity pool for transferring like game tokens or for like ETH to game token, or yeah, like what's the context of the liquidity pool? USDC exchanges through MetaFab. Yeah, okay. That's a good question. So there's a few ways we can make it work. One of them is basically a deposit system where you can deposit USDC, ETH, or Poly in such a way that then it can be gaslessly transacted with. The other way is that we'll give games the ability to launch swap and exchange contracts to form basically liquidity pool equivalent type contracts as well for swapping between the pairs. So there should be a variety of solutions depending on what the game needs specifically, but we won't be liquidity providers if that's what you're asking too. Ultimately, it's up for the games to implement the liquidity provisions or the players of the games to opt into liquidity provisions, however they decide to. We just give the tools for you to choose to deploy and go from there. I think, yeah, I think that's it, unless, all right, 2 minutes and 43 seconds, or sorry, 2 hours and 43 minutes. That was a long stream. That was a lot of talking. Yeah. Yeah, thanks for the feedback. Yeah, I hope, you know, if you watched this and hung out with us during the stream, thank you so much. If you're watching the video and the replay, I hope you get some great takeaways from it. Or if you're a developer and you've been thinking about MetaFab, hopefully this answered your questions. Yeah, huge dump of info in this. Thanks all. I'll see you later.